at one point accused Benazir Bhutto of being involved in your father's death. Could you talk about that?
At the time that my father was killed, his sister Benazir was the Prime Minister for the second time in Pakistan, and she had empowered the police forces in the city of Karachi, the police forces and the security agencies under the aegis of Operation Cleanup, to, quote, clean up Karachi. And it was in that period, that year-and-a-half period that Operation Cleanup was in effect, that some 3,000 men were murdered in the city of Karachi. They were political activists, they were journalists, they were opponents of the government, and they were all killed in extrajudicial murders. My father was one of those men. He was a very strong critic of the government. He was an elected member of parliament. And he spoke very vocally and very sharply about his sister Benazir's corruption, about the human rights abuses. And really, 14 years ago, almost to the week, he was assassinated along with 6 other people outside our home.
You were close to your aunt, to Benazir Bhutto, when you were growing up.
Yes.
You appealed to her when your father was imprisoned. How long was he in prison? Why? What was he charged with? And what did your aunt say? She was Prime Minister.
After their father, Asif Ali Bhutto, was overthrown, all the Bhutto children lobbied for clemency for their father. And at the time, it was Murtaza and his brother, his younger brother, Shahnawaz, who traveled around the world. They met senators in America. They went and met members of the UN. They spoke to media organizations, organized law conferences, all to push for clemency. And after 2 years, their father was killed. And they chose, young as they were at the time, 25 and 21 years old, to then attack the government more forcefully, to launch an armed movement against the government. It was that choice that resulted in upwards of 90 cases being filed against them, not just the 2 brothers, but also Benazir, by the military regime of Zia-ul-Haq. All of the siblings, Benazir included, were charged with sedition, treason, hijacking, acts of terrorism. And when Benazir ascended to the office of the Prime Minister, after negotiating with the military regime that had placed those cases on her, her cases were expunged, but her brothers never were. So when my father returned to Pakistan in 1993, he was arrested on those 20-year-old charges of treason. And he, till now, is having his name cleared in the Pakistani courts, the same courts that accused him of all those really heinous acts, have been honorably acquitting him. He was in jail under his sister's government for 8 months. Every judge that awarded him bail was sacked. But eventually he was freed, and he launched a political reform movement that sought to change the trajectory of the People's Party in Pakistan, to return it to its socialist roots, to return it to its history of bilateral foreign policy, and away from a very cozy and very tricky relationship with Western powers, with the IMF, with the World Bank.
And how exactly did he die? And why do you believe that your aunt was responsible for his death?
He was returning home from a rally on the outskirts of Karachi. As he returned to our residence on Clifton Road, his car was surrounded. There were 70 to 100 policemen on the roads that night. Some were in the trees in sniper positions. The streetlights had been shot, and guards of the nearby embassies, because we live on a road where the British High Commissioners, the Italian consulate, were all told to retreat within their embassies. 7 men were killed that night. 5 of them were killed with single shots to the heart or the head from the snipers. Sorry, 4 of them were. 2 of them, my father included, were shot several times, but were killed by point-blank shots. My father was killed by a shot to the jaw that the autopsy showed was fired as he was laying down by someone standing over him. After the men were shot, they were left to bleed on the roads for up to an hour. They were not moved. And when they were moved, they were all taken to different locations, but none to emergency hospitals. And it was in the aftermath that it was Benazir's government who arrested all the survivors and the witnesses to the murder. They were held until her government fell, without access to lawyers, without access to their families, while all the policemen were honorably cleared and put back on their beats. Many of them served in the Central Committee of Benazir's Pakistan People Party. They were promoted within the ranks. We were prevented from filing police cases, which is our right under the Pakistani law. We had to go to the courts of sin to have that right returned to us. And we were stopped from filing criminal charges. Eventually, the government put a tribunal in place that would have no legal authority to pass sentence. But it was that tribunal that determined that the order to assassinate Murtaza Bhutto could only have come from the highest levels of government.
A decade later, your aunt is assassinated then, Benazir Bhutto, upon her return to Pakistan. Who do you believe assassinated her?
Well, we have no answers. It is almost 3 years since Benazir's assassination. After her murder, no autopsy was carried out against Pakistani law. No charges have been filed, no one has been arrested, and no investigation has been opened up in the country. We still don't know.
And Zardari would not have been elected had it not been for her assassination and then his being catapulted once again into a positive light in Pakistan society. Now you talked about that his trip to Europe was actually an attempt to begin to prepare the role for his own son to succeed him. Could you talk about that?
Yes, obscenely that was what was being prepared in the media in Pakistan. We were being told that this was going to be the launching of a new political heir, and we know that dynasty is what keeps this government in power. This is not a government that runs on platform. It's a government that runs on photographs, on ghosts, and on the vague hints of personalities. It was after his wife's murder that Zardari changed his children's name. To Bhutto. From Zardari, and launched what was essentially a hostile takeover of the Pakistan People's Party, which, that said, is not a party that has ever had elections under its current leadership. And it is the blood of this family that keeps Zardari in power.
Will you run for political office in Pakistan, Fatima?
No, I refuse to perpetuate a system that at its core negates participation. I think we have to choose democracy or dynasty.
And what role do you feel the U.S. plays in that issue of democracy versus dynasty, as we say? I mean, ISI, the intelligence services in Pakistan, very close to the United States. Many feel they are responsible for the formation and the support of the Taliban.
Absolutely, and I think we see that America is very comfortable with the idea of dynasty, whether it's a military dynasty that follows through the ranks without any say from the Pakistani people, or whether it is through a government such as this one that follows orders, that doesn't care, as you mentioned earlier, about collateral damage. If it weren't for American money and political support, this government would not be in power.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being with us, Fatima Bhutto. Her memoir is called Songs of Blood and Sword, A Daughter's Memoir. That does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Sharifa Dokadus, Nicole Salazar, Aaron Mate, Anjali Kamat, Steve Martinez, Hani Masood, Ravi Karen, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, our engineers. Special thanks to Becca Staley, Julia Crosby, Nick Gilla, Hugh Gran, Jessel Noor, Vesta Godars, John Randolph, Kieran Crick Meadows, Ra Campenny, Callan Innocent. Our website is democracynow.org. I'll be speaking in Columbia, Missouri in the coming weeks. You can go to our website at democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Have a good weekend.